He built it, he maintained it, and sort of a lasting tribute to Bob. And the other lasting tribute to Bob at Como was you can always find him on the 9th hole in an easy chair with a drink and a cigar in his hand, welcoming the golfers in. You know, that's one of the lasting impressions of Bobby. So I lost my glass over there, and I'm not going to move because I'm going to set this thing off. But I think before Joanne takes over, I'd like to have a toast to Bobby from all his friends. To Bobby. Cheers.
He helped everybody. You look at his CV or resume of his activities other than his home life, his work life. He helped others, especially in the community. He's a past Commodore of the Hudson Yacht Club, past executive member of the golf club, and custodian of the signature 6th hole. And it was a wonderful tribute from the club just after Bob's passing to change the sign from Como to Hart. It was wonderful. Yeah. Every time there's a work meeting, whether it be summer or winter, Bob was the first one there at Como. Little did people know that the Hudson Home and Garden Tour, Bob served lunches there. Pretty spiffy place with a black, it turned out to be a black guy affair, and it was a lot of fun. In the Legion, he was a volunteer bartender for the Hardy Rocks, as well as Bible class on Sundays. For those that have been here for a while, you remember, he used to call bingo. Yeah. And coordinated cribbage. He's a favorite, and 69. Something like that. And did you realize Bob was an original member, charter member of the A team for Nelson and Jones Hamburgers, which are still going now after 12 years. Keeping along with the curling, he was the originator of Hardy Rock's Best Sweeper in the Club Award. Personally, he has helped me. I've been in dire straits the odd time with my lawn cutting business. Bob was always there to help me. Always there to help me. Selena and I would go on vacation quite a bit to Cuba, and he was always there to look after the house, the 2 cats and a dog. Everybody loved Bob, including the 3rd cat that showed up upon our arrival one time. Bob's other claim to fame when he picked us up at the airport. Normally, flight from Cuba came in about 12:31 in the morning. He was always there, always with a pint. He's quite the athlete as well. Bob was a member of the vaunted Hudson High wrestling and football teams. He was a key sailor with Tanzer 22 at the yacht club. Curler represented the Legion at least one time with the Legion Nationals under the tutelage of Big Jack. Mm-hmm. He was a former B champion of the golf club, and he represented the club on the interclub teams as well. I personally witnessed Bob's hole-in-one about 5 years ago on the 9th hole. 120-yard par 3. He had his vaunted 7-wood with a knockdown shot. It was about this high off the ground. Just skipped by the sand trap into the hole. Beautiful shot. When I first came to Hudson, I played hockey with the Hudson Old Timers, and who shows up to referee but Bob Hart and the late Pat Patterson.
RoboCop.
And for those that played horseshoes last year, about this time of the year, the Hardy Rocks Championship, Bob is a reigning champion. Bob is also a renowned joke teller. I'll leave you with his favorite joke, his latest favorite joke, but until then, we're down at Otterburn for a Bonspiel one weekend, and it was a long, drawn-out Bonspiel. Saturday, a lot of drinking, a lot of curling, more drinking, then the banquet, okay, and then after dinner speeches, and this was dragging on and on. And then they Bob loved the microphone, okay. So didn't he go up? And he started telling this joke, and it's the raciest joke I've ever heard. We got mixed company, and Bob's going on, and before you know it, he fell asleep before the punch. And that's a true story. And this latest joke, which you're gonna laugh out of everybody, pertains to the Queen. She was on visit to Canada. Okay? She's up in a small northern mining town in Ontario, and she goes through a tour of the town with the mayor, and at the end of the tour, the mayor says, "You got a lovely furry hat there. What made you wear that?" She says, "Oh, every time I go on tour, I ask my mom about the wardrobe." Okay, and she said, "Where are you going?" "Kapuskasing, Ontario." She said, "Where the fuck's that?" How is Bobby Hart going to be remembered? Well, based on the comments and tributes from the obit and social media, Bobby spread joy and happiness to everyone he touched. To summarize some of the comments: jovial, makes the room brighter, never-ending smiles, cheery hello and warmth, great man, lovely guy, special man, infectious smile and attitude, amazing person, heart of gold, everybody loved him, generous. Playing around the golf with Bobby was always memorable. Bobby Hart, thank you very much for being a friend.
Okay, here we go. How Bob and I met. In 1992, I decided to join the curling club because I saw lots of ads in the local paper, so I needed something to do. Then October arrived, and this is when the season starts. After each game, there was the social part. We shared thoughts and talked about this, that, and the other thing. During the curling season, to tell you the truth, I don't really remember seeing Bob, or maybe we said hi a couple of times. But at the end of the season, now April is coming along, and wow, there's this big Whitlock party. In those days, Hudson and Whitlock were like together for parties. And I learned it's a curling closing at Whitlock. There's supper, dancing, DJ, which was Ted Poulain. Where are you, Ted? And I just right there. So off I go with friends at Whitlock. Megan, is Megan here? Yep. Okay. So Megan and I were curlers the first year, and we went together with other friends. We chose a table at Whitlock, the surroundings, the ambiance, wow. So during supper, and I swear to you, I remember to this day, at the corner of my eye, 2 tables on the left, there's this good-looking guy in a pink V-neck sweater. I just looked at him, I said, oh my God, I was smitten. I said, so who's this? And around me they said, oh, this is Bob Hart. Okay, so after supper, there's music, dancing. And I was praying and hoping he would ask me to dance, and he did. And that was then that the beginning of our life started, that we got together. So time goes by, a few months later, we both sold our houses, and we live in the one we are now. It's been 32 years. Bob just loved his golf, as you know. in our younger days, he would leave at 6 a.m. and return in the early afternoon. At Como, I caddied for Bob when he won the B Trophy in 1993. He was in his glory. He was happy, I was happy. A little later, he started the Como sign, as John was talking to you about. And all I want to say to Como, thank you for the touching and powerful tribute. If only he could see the Hart sign, elated he would be. Oh, by the way, family life, he was a grandpa to Aiden, Mallory, and Esteban. Esteban, as you know, he was living with us. So grandpa, when Esteban would come at the house, first thing Esteban would say, Grandpa, where's the BB gun? In the back, he went to the BB gun, the cans, and the squirrels. And he started fishing. Bob showed him out, Brian too, but Bob was the real fisherman. So he learned from the master fisherman. Okay, now retired, every morning around 7:38, Bob would do his little thing, laptop. He would look at his fishing video and he'd laugh at it every time. He enjoyed it so much when he went down the bike. So every morning Bob would drive to Como with a cigar in his hand and he'd wave to me goodbye in his car. Then he'd go up picking up golf balls, cleaning them, putting them in egg cartons for donation to the RD Rocks. And by the way, he needs a replacement to pick up those balls. It must be winding the fields over there. And then there was Bible class. On Sunday, the Legion, and then the Chateau with the gang, where he would be with the boys. They'd share sandwiches, stories, and beer and whatever. Oh yes. What's at the Chateau beside that? The machines. Yes. And what did he say to me? I didn't mind too much. Sometimes he'd say, well, moitié, moitié. If I win, you get half. One day I came home and I don't know how much money he won, but he was all over the bed. He said, was the one and only time for sure. And don't forget that Bob's mom always said, or Bob would repeat to me, my mom always said, I'm not perfect, but pretty close. And then he would like prepare deviled eggs. That's why we have deviled eggs here today in his memory. The macaroni salad, and much more. Now the garden. Bob loved his cosmos in the garden, and that's why Claudia, my daughter-in-law, did little sachets with cosmos seeds, and it's for all the guests to pick the cosmos in remembrance of Bob. And by the way, every time I went to meet him in the garden, he would tell me, he would look at me and say, Joanne, you are the only French girl with an English garden. He gave me goosebumps and we smiled. The last thing, Jim Markham, are you going to tell it for me?
I beg pardon?
You know, when we
go,
go to
Jim.
Mexico, okay, here.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Wait, so when Bob and I plan a trip to Mexico or no matter what, so we're at the Legion, we're at the bar, and he has to tell everybody, well, this is what we're going to do when we go.
What do we do when we go to Mexico? Well, we do a little bit of this and a whole bunch of this.
Yeah. So, we did it all the time. Okay, so to finish, I just want to say, Bob, listen to me. You were my greatest adventure. Loving you was easy. Thank you for loving me back. First people here, and I've been trying to figure out how long ago, 45, 48 years ago. He never failed to greet you with a big warm hello and how are you and how have you been. I have a couple of stories about Bob and his amazing capacity to catnap. One of the stories involves bubblegum, so I can't tell that in mixed company. Those of you who know. Oh good, someone knows. The other one involves his ability to recall information. One time we were at I think it may have been a New Year's Eve party at your place, Barbie. It was a Christmas time party, and a game of Trivial Pursuit broke out. And and we were loosely divided in two teams on two sides of the couch, the living room, and Bob sat in the middle with his arms crossed and fell asleep. And we were being asked questions and we would spit out the answers and he would sleep. And then it was his team's turn and someone would spit out a question and he would go, "Schenectady!" and go back to sleep. And damn it, he was right. He had the correct answer. Well, this kept going for the entire game and he'd be out of it and then he'd wake up, spit out the right answer, and go back to sleep. They won with him asleep. So that was something I always thought, I run the trivia games here for pub quiz and organize the pub quiz, and I kept saying, "Bob, come on down, because I can't stay awake long enough." Cheers to Bob. But it's something that you get to meet a Bob. For me, Bob was a great, great person. Kind, loving, so generous, always asking you what he could do for you, and always giving without asking or expecting anything in return. I moved in, I lived with them for a while, then I went to university, and when I came back, I always felt at home. I always felt home because it could have been a very different situation, but I always felt welcome, and it's because of him. And obviously Mom. Bob, loved the simple things. He loved his life. He loved the people that he was with. He loved being around people, loved going to Bible class, sailing, reading, whatever he was doing, he just loved being around people. And yet, he was somebody that you just could be around him and not need to speak. You could just be around him and just feel happy. In the last couple of years, when I would go home and visit, I would go do whatever with my mom or my brother and whatnot, and Bob would go golfing or do his thing. And he would go to the yard, and when we'd come back around 3 or 4, like that moment, I would go back in the house, put my stuff down, and hurry out. And he'd be in front of the garage, and he'd pull up a chair for me and my mom and for him, and we'd just be in the front yard, and that would be the Bob time. We'd just sit there, chit chat, and that's usually when he would ask me how I was, what I was doing, and we'd chit chat about what was going on in Hudson or whatnot. And and every time that this happened, this is usually when he would say, "Christina, I washed your car today," or "I put some air in your tires," or I waxed your car, or fixed your wipers. And one day, a couple of years ago, because I have an older car, and he said, "Come and see." He said, "You had a bit of dents in your car in the hood." And he says, "I scraped it all down, sanded it all down. It's beautiful. I painted all. It's beautiful." So I'm looking at the car, and there's the sun coming down. I'm like, I don't think that's the same shade of black. So there are all these dots on my car, and you know what? But he was so happy, and that's how he showed you that he cared. He'd be always doing stuff like that for you. So I wanted to thank everybody for being here, for all the love, for everybody that made some food, and the Legion, and the Stuart that came with us, and the Como Golf, that sign, that
place is just for him. That's the most important thing. And he loved you all. And I just wanted to thank you all for being here and doing that. And if we're lucky enough, once we pass that gate, maybe one day, he'll wait for us and pull up a chair when it's our time to cross over. So thank you so much for being here.
So this is a tribute via Derek Holler. We are here because we miss Bob. Amongst many other qualities, he was a great volunteer, always willing to help. Citing a few examples that were personal to me, Bob was a member of the erection crew who helped put up the boards for the Hudson artists. For years we sat up and took down the art show until we decided to have a retirement party here at the Legion. When Alec White, founder of the Hudson Old Timers Hockey, needed a replacement referee, Bob inherited the job and learned to blow the whistle once in a while at an appropriate time. Without his good humor and affable personality, our hockey would have been even more chaotic. Bob and Joanne had a little dog called Ralphie. When Joey and I were having our floors sanded and revarnished with the chemically noxious to dogs, they invited us to stay in their home. At the time, our new puppy, a German Shepherd dog called Hart, would have been at risk. Hart and Ralphie were the same size. They all thought they were in love. Bob later loved to talk about this romance, and the look on Ralphie's face when several months later the dogs met on Como Golf Course. They looked like the odd couple, but happy to see each other. Bob was famous for volunteering. He would often host for our Hardy Rock inter-club lunches, where it is customary for thanking the opponents for beating us, and telling a joke or two, regardless of whether you remember the punchline or not. On his last day of golf, Bob volunteered to drive me home. In the driveway, we shook hands. Bob will not be forgotten. Thank you, Derek. Who's next? Who's next?
Two years ago, we're having a family party, and Joanne shows up to Bob for the first time.
It's today that he became the best friend. You couldn't go without it. It's just to say, 32 years ago, he was a long-time friend and my best friend. Thank you.
Growing up, sweet. I can tell you one quick little story about my brother that I love. He used to come to our cottage in Ontario for Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving every year. And we would cook the turkey in my oven because it was bigger. And down the way on the island a little bit was my brother Mike's cottage, where we would have the meal. Brother Bob would be fishing and drinking beer and smoking cigars throughout the day, and he would come over to the cottage and get the turkey fresh out of the oven, carry it down the stairs, into the boat, across my brother's island, out of the boat, and into the kitchen without spilling a drop, even though he'd been drinking beer all day. And we've been trying to find a replacement for that, but we can't seem to do it. But I love my brother. He was a good guy. I didn't get to see him back, but Godspeed, Brother Bob.
Bob was, Jim is, and Brian has stole all the things you say about Bob. He doesn't have a list of things. I just called it up because I'll mention it. But there's a few things they missed. One, Ted. Hello. Hi, Ted. How are you, Ted? Okay. Technology and I do not get along. Anyway, Bob was a caregiver for our mother, Leona. Many of you knew Leona. And you can imagine that perhaps wasn't the easiest game in town. But Bob was great, and when my wife Ellen and I would go and visit Mom in Hawkesbury, "Hi, Mom, it's Mike and Ellen, come to visit." Yeah, that's nice, where's Bob?" And then we'd carry on a little bit, and she'd say, "Well, so where's Bob? He hasn't been here for 2 days. Is he okay?" Anyway, it would go on, and as we'd leave, she'd say, "Son, this getting old isn't for sissies." And Bob and I would get together and we'd laugh about that. This getting old isn't for sissies. And now, it's not so funny anymore, as most of you will adhere to. And anyway, this community of Hudson was Bob's heart and soul. Next to his family, of course. And he was everything that Jim and Brian said he was, for sure, in spades. And he will be missed by all of you, I know that. Thank you.
I would find out his tea times and ride my bike through the forest to meet him at Como Golf, to be his caddy until the 9th hole. He'd have a beer and I'd ride my bike home. Then he probably did another 9 holes. Around the same time, he took Mike and I out on Charisma, his 22-foot Tanzer. We loved being on that boat. I was maybe 10 years old. And Dad asked, "Do you think you guys could sail her?" Before we could even answer, Dad jumped overboard. So Mike and I were on the boat. We had to tack and go back and rescue him. He was so proud of us for saving him. Then in my teenage years, a bunch of us went to our home in Como in our cars. We left our shoes at the front door and went into the sunroom. We hotboxed that sunroom. Then we heard the glass shutter, meaning somebody was home. So we panicked. We went out the side of the sunroom door, ran around, no shoes, into our cars and took off. And I came back, like we all came back, 2 hours later. My dad said, "Were you smoking marijuana in the sunroom?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Don't do that ever again." And I didn't. I appreciate beyond words the love and support from Joanne, her family, and his community. He was a wonderful dad and grandfather. Whoop. My dad didn't like goodbyes. Many times I had to track him down at Como to say goodbye. So I will say thank you to everyone for coming today, for your love and support of my dad and our family. Until we meet again, Bobby. Cheers.
I wrote an email to Bob, basically, so that's the format. Dear Bob, I'm still thinking you will show up, or that you will be sitting on the couch watching golf or football, and to share a lovely Sunday dinner, and for you to say after to my mother, "You've did it again, Shu." We will miss your calmness and appeasing personality. We will miss you driving us to and from the airport. The first time you drove us back from the airport, I said to myself, "Why are we taking a detour?" I want to go straight home, and we live on the other side of St. Lazare, and he's going through Hudson, not the 40. But then I quickly realized what you were doing, and the beautiful scenery did its magic. You had the fabulous idea to ease us back home by driving along the side of Lake of Two Mountains. Just like as to say, you can be anywhere in the world, but there isn't nothing like home. That's Bob for you right there. We will miss you secretly washing our cars while we were away. We will miss the great family we were by always complimenting us for the small things we did. You would say with your big French accent, "You're a real professional." We will
miss the selfless man you were, always taking care of us and the people around you so naturally without asking anything in return. We will miss the gentleman you were and the calm and charismatic man. And I would add, like Jim just said, the great storyteller and joke teller. You had good timing. And you could repeat a joke 5 times over the years and still make it funny. Sorry. We will miss the amazing spouse you have been to my mother for over 30 years. You have given her another life when she lost my dad at an early age. You have accomplished countless honey-do lists, like a real soldier, and systematically saying, yes, dear. It took me a long time to learn that one, and I'm still trying hard to reach your level of wisdom. Above all, you've given Jojo love, happiness, support, and warmth without fail through all these years. We will miss the amazing dad you've been to Melissa and Mike, and stepdad to my sister Christina and I. We will miss the amazing grandpa you've been to Aiden, Mallory, and Esteban. On a more personal note, I have realized over the years that you have showed me and taught me so much, not with your words, but with your action, by the way you simply were and lived your life. When I think of your lifestyle, your son's lifestyle, and your brother's lifestyle, and I've told you many times, Bob, I call it the Hart recipe. I guess that means live your life to the fullest, enjoy the outdoors, and all the simple things that life may bring, and don't live to work, but work to live. Let me say that I have met many successful men in my career, but in my own eyes, none of them ever got close to the success you've achieved. You worked hard, just enough, but you managed to enjoy your family and friends a great deal. Your family and friends, and to do a great deal of sailing, curling, golfing, and fishing, like lots of us can only dream of. Bob, you left too fast, too soon. I wish I would have hugged you instead of giving you fist bumps, but I'm sure that you knew deep down what those fist bumps meant. It meant, I have your back, I love you, and we'll see each other the next day. I came to realize that you knew very clearly what was going on, and that was your time. I saw it in your long, intense, and kind look you gave me when I left the night before you passed. Your eyes were silently saying to me, be good, and take care of Jojo for me. Although it took me days for me to process that, rest assured that your eyes spoke, and I felt and heard your goodbye loud and clear. You were the only one that really knew, and you didn't want to hurt us, I get it. You always said you wouldn't live like this. You left under your own terms, with unbelievable strength and courage. You did it your way, Bob. You're the man. All the love received since you've passed last July 10th, and the love shown to you today in your beloved Legion, is a testimony of the lives that you've touched, and all the love and amazingly good vibes that you've spread around. We are so immensely blessed to have had you in our lives for all these years, and you will continue to live strongly in our hearts. Until we meet again on the 19th hole, Bob, rest in peace.